it's a really great pleasure to be speaking with Hamid Rashid, the founder, CEO of Finterra Group here in Nairobi.
It's my pleasure, Ali, to be here in Nairobi, Kenya. My pleasure.
Thank you for making the time this morning.
You're welcome.
Hamid, you know, we've been seeing you making presentations all over the world. I think you were telling me your schedule was Moscow, Riyadh, Oman, Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Last 3 weeks has been crazy.
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
But first of all, before I touch on yourselves, just give us a view. What is crypto? What is blockchain? What's it all about?
I mean, this is a very new phenomena, right? Crypto in itself as a mainstream started off 4 years back when Ethereum actually launched their platform, and hundreds of new ICOs and wannabes came on that platform. So this crypto is a pretty new space, but it is a very promising space, especially the space of blockchain. Now, crypto is something that comes out of a blockchain. It doesn't have to, but there are a lot of now crypto projects either in the currency space or other use cases spaces that are actually growing out of it. But blockchain is very promising, and basically it is also called the second wave of the internet.
And in your opinion, what is the blockchain? I mean, what you know, people use the word, but what is it exactly?
Blockchain, I mean, it's a kind of a combination of 4 different features of what we were doing in ICT, information and communication technology, for the last 15 years, and that has joined together in a single platform. And what that is security, right? IT security or encryption. Networking, where we were doing centralized networking, and now it has become distributed networking. The database itself, right, and the ledger. Now, ledger is something what we used to do in databases like Excel sheet or debits and credits, recording them. But now through a form called the hyperledger, where transactions can be recorded in speed of light kind of way, and each transaction is encrypted, so it is highly secure, and there is a private and public key. So those transactions are only visible to you if you have conducted the transaction. Now, this has kind of revolutionized the whole financial space initially right now, but it is also bringing so many different use cases in different industries like airlines and government sector, and the public sector is highly affected from this because of the security and because of the cryptography that's being used in conducting transactions.
So let me ask you about Finterra. You're the founder, you're the CEO. Tell us a little bit about what, where the idea came from, the opportunity, and what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think that's the most common question that I get all over the world, that what actually sparked this little flame of Finterra, and what was the whole initial idea behind it. Finterra started off from a problem statement, and that problem statement was that there is not enough liquidity in asset class markets. Now, what that basically means is, to raise capital, we have our traditional methods of raising capital, either through the securities or through putting collateral to a financial institution and taking a loan against it, right? So this has been the traditional ways of raising capital. Why don't we look at a new form of raising capital, a new form which is much faster, and the amount of capital can be raised is much higher, right? And where basically all parties involved win, not that only the bank wins and the person taking out a loan or raising the capital has to pay it with so much of interest over a long periods of time. And that was crowdfunding, right? So what we looked into was crowdfunding, the blockchain itself, and regulatory frameworks in different countries, and we combined all of these 3. Now, the first use case that we're working on this is the endowment chain, or also called the Waqf chain in the GCC or the Islamic countries. Endowment chain is one platform that could raise capital against endowment asset, like land-based assets, for the development in a very, very fast way. And is still staying within the legal and regulatory framework, but going out of the financial framework, where you don't have to go in a traditional banking or investment banking or retail banking mode, but you can still raise capital and stay within the regulatory framework.
So yes, this is the report I saw on Reuters. I think they were talking about the opportunity. I think you sized the market size at an incredible number.
Yeah, so this market size is not just Finterra saying that this market size. This is based on research from OIC, IDB, the Islamic Development Bank, Saudi Arabia, and also WIEF, the World Islamic Economic Forum. So based on the last 10 years of surveys on endowment assets globally, it is in excess of $1 trillion US, in excess.
Wow.
So, and it is not just refined to say Islamic countries or non-Islamic country, it is across the world. There are so many endowments or charities where assets are within foundations in the United States, in the UK, in South Africa, and Australia. Now, those assets are classified as endowment, and they fall under the act of endowment within the regulatory framework in each of those countries.
So you're looking to disrupt the current way people are managing the endowment asset base.
So our approach is a little bit away from the management part, but more towards the development part. Now, management is where the land management and the title managements come in. We are not specifically going in that space. Yes, we do record titles, ownership, management, we do record, but our focus mainly is on crowdfunding or capital raising against those assets for the development of the asset, which has been lacking for the last 100 years. You know, that endowment assets only attracted capital from charities, donations, and government grants. There was no other way to raise capital against those assets. But now with this crowdfunding and the Finterra blockchain, the endowment chain, we are able to raise capital and very large amounts of capital for the development of these assets.
Fascinating, an extraordinary opportunity. Yesterday you were talking to me about also already having built a platform where you have, I think you said about 400,000 subscribers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so for us to qualify a user or a potential investor to participate in contributing capital for the development of these assets, right, the endowment assets, we pre-qualify them. So under the securities and central banking regulations, we must pre-qualify investors based on their KYC, know your customer, AML, anti-money laundering, and certain credit rating. So we get that details from the users, pre-qualify them through an independent audit. Once they qualify, then we register them as a potential investor in our system. Right now, we have in excess of 400,000 investors pre-registered in our system in the last 5 months.
That's extraordinary.
Yes. So the level of interest that's coming for such a product and such a service is enormous, enormous.
So tell us a little bit about why you're here in Nairobi then.
I presented here a paper last month in the World Blockchain Summit last month, and I saw that a lot of very positive response came through the technology community here in Nairobi, as well as the regulators. So Securities Commission was there. They liked the idea that for the first time that there is a blockchain, there is a crypto initiative which actually is looking into regulatory compliance and is staying within the framework. Not like all those other blockchain and cryptos where they try to evade regulations and try to break the system. Here we are trying to participate within the system but use a technology like blockchain for the power of its features. So we got called back to Nairobi by the Securities Commission and Central Bank to present in depth on the product platform, the Finterra product platform, and whether there could be use cases locally here. So this is what I'm back here in Nairobi for, and I really look forward to interacting with the regulators here.
And we're really happy that you are here. Now, let me ask you another question. You've already got some investors in the blockchain or in Finterra.
Yes.
Will you describe to us that journey and where you're headed?
Yeah. See, we have a seed funder right now, and when I wrote this paper for the Finterra project last year, I presented this paper for venture capital to many venture in Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, and a multinational company which is 18 years old and is in the space of e-commerce for the last 18 years. They like the idea of Finterra for two reasons. One, that we are shifting the paradigm in the technology space itself, that we are not copycatting the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain, or the Ethereum platform or the Ripple platform, that we are redesigning blockchain ground up. So how it could be done for it to last for next 3 to 5 years. So they like that because a lot of new IPs and patents could come out of this. So they like that portion. And the second part they liked was that there was a social element to all of this, that we are not just building technology for the profit, but also to benefit the society as a whole by developing endowments, by certain contribution to charities. So in our capital raise itself, in our white paper, we have specified that whatever we raise 5% of it would be given to certain charities. And those charities we have identified like UNESCO, UNICEF, UNHDP, and we are tying up with those United Nations entities. Now, back in January, United Nations honored us by giving us a Sustainable Growth Award in Malaysia that was given to us, and that's why we are part of this initiative. That whatever we raise, we'll contribute 5% of it back to United Nations charity organizations.
Now, we look after people's money here in Nairobi. Everyone's going to say to you, what is the opportunity we're talking about? So if somebody really wants to invest in this, yes, believes that this is a huge opportunity, yep, how do they go about it? What are they going to be doing?
Our approach from day one is that we are more than happy to talk to potential investors, right? Our approach has been that we can speak directly to especially large investors, but in every country we have localized representation. So in Nairobi we do have localized representation. I'll advise the potential investors to talk to our representatives in Kenya, because they will comply to the local regulations for investment. We do take small cap investors that want to come in, and mainly the investment would be around the token once it goes into listing. So right now we are in the pre-phase of the listing. By July, we are targeting July, that we should list on multiple exchanges globally. At that point, whoever shows interest at this point would be given a preferential entry point into what is called the ICO, the initial coin offering.
Okay, fantastic. I think I've got. Now let me ask you a bigger question. You know, we look at the world today, it's changing so fast. Yeah. You know, yesterday somebody was saying there'd been a few years in blockchain. You said that is an eternity because things are. How do you see it? You know, is this a major revolutionary disruption? What is it that we're looking at?
See, I take it based on historic trends, right? And those historic trends could go hundreds of years back. There were cave paintings, and then we had the Gutenberg press, yes, that came, and that was a paradigm shift. Yes. It was not an improvement of a, it was a complete paradigm shift of distributing art on walls versus printing them on a press and distributing them, right? Same thing happened when the internet came about, 98, 99, 2000, right? The dispersion of content and knowledge just became everywhere. Now, we don't even need to go to a library, we can just Google it, right? Now, Google has become the global or universal library for everything, right? So this is paradigm shift. And that's exactly what companies like, say, WhatsApp did. That there were telcos, there were global telcos like AT&T, and there's so many singular and covering the global networks, right? But a product so small like WhatsApp, a mobile app, came across, and provided the service free of charge, yes, riding on existing infrastructure, yes, and in a better way. You could now do your text messaging, your voice and video calls totally free of charge, right? The same thing Uber did, right? Uber came with such a small service, but they just completely changed the paradigm of how a taxi hailing service works, right? Where taxis are still operating, but they created a parallel service which is user-friendly, which is cheaper, and which is more accessible to common man versus just certain elites.
Is the Finterra blockchain as revolutionary as Uber and as revolutionary as...
Yes. So, yes, we will revolutionize the asset management, the land asset management, especially the endowment land asset management. So we'll become the largest land management company without owning a single piece of land.
That's extraordinary.
Yes.
And tell me something, you know, the Waqif, we have Sharia boards, etc. How has the response been, yes, amongst, you know, the authorities within Sharia, yes, to this block? You know, it's quite revolutionary.
Yes.
Are they accepting of it? Have they been supportive?
When we started the project, right, one thing that we took care from day one was to get professional advisors, experienced advisors to advise on regulatory compliance. We do have an in-house advisor on Sharia compliance, Dr. Hassan. Dr. Hassan was attached to the Central Bank of Malaysia and sits on the Sharia Committee of Maybank, which is the largest bank in Malaysia. Yep. So Dr. Hassan has been advising us on every feature that we create, every process that we create within the system, its relevance to Sharia compliance. Yep. So when we presented our model to the regulators on 1st of March in our blockchain conference, we made sure that we touch on this point of Sharia compliance and the Waqf law compliance. And the regulators were more than happy, and we got endorsement from multiple regulators then. But since then, how we have progressed is that we have approached multiple Islamic banks like Bank Islam, Maybank Islamic, Kuwait Finance House, IDB Islamic Development Bank in Saudi Arabia, and we have presented to them separately on the execution and the processes built within the system, and that whether it complies not only Sharia but to the Islamic banking regulations. And so far, I think we have been pretty blessed that multiple banks have endorsed us. And on 11th of May this month, I'm presenting to the Sharia Council in Malaysia that will query us in depth into the processes we have created, and they will give kind of a blanket approval that what we are doing is compliant, and if there are certain things non-compliant, we are more than willing to listen to them and improve on them, because it's a journey for us, right? We don't come from a Waqf and a Sharia compliance background, so we need all the help we can get, and so far I would say a lot of help has been coming forth.
Two final questions. So yesterday you were talking about your coin. You were saying that it's in a pre-coin phase at the moment. I can't remember the technical term for that phase.
It's a pre-ICO.
Pre-ICO, but you also said that it's trading at the moment, right?
It is not trading at the moment. Once it goes listing,
Yes.
post-listing it will become tradable.
Okay.
So right now it is not trading.
So right now, if someone says, "Okay, Hamid, I'm all for it."
Yes. So we are taking, we are basically getting them to sign a letter of interest.
Yes.
And we are registering them as a potential investor or a consumer of the token once it goes onto the exchanges. So your target is somewhere July. So far we have a lot of interest that we have registered, and these are pre-qualified token purchasers or investors, and they will be given a incentive if they decide to purchase in July upon listing.
Final question. There's a lot of talk about regulation. Once every month there's some big news about. Tell us how you've navigated the regulatory environment. What's your strategy? And do you see the regulator as an opportunity to collaborate with, or how do you view it?
Yeah. When all of this blockchain and the crypto thing started 4 years back, regulators were not prepared for this, right? Especially in the Asia Pacific context or even in Africa. They were not prepared because this was a very technical endeavor that was taken up by open source communities to develop this blockchain. And regulators took almost 2 years to understand what actually is happening. So the year of 2015, 16 was heavily used to understand this space, by the regulators. In 16 and 17, they little bit understood it. Some countries in 17 started creating regulations around it, like Singapore, Hong Kong, India. They started creating some regulations around it, especially in the space of exchange, the crypto exchange, because that's where the crypto converts into fiat, and that hurts the local economy directly, right? And that's where a lot of questions of money laundering arise. Converting a currency that is not recognized into a currency that is recognized. So that's it came about. Now, in this year, I'm noticing that in 2018, a lot of regulators have come up with the regulations. So Malaysia has a regulation around exchange, around the trade of cryptocurrency. They have not recognized any cryptocurrency, but there is a recognition that it exists, and what is self-governance or self-reporting should happen by entities that are trading in it. Same thing has happened in Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, India is coming out with it, but they're a little bit lagging behind, but they're coming out with it. So this space is evolving, and is evolving fast, right, as the regulators are learning. Now what we have done is from day one, when we started the project, we declared ourselves to multiple regulators, right? We are registered in Malaysia, so we declared ourselves to Central Bank and Securities Commission there. In Singapore, so MAS, we declared ourselves, what we are doing, our business plan. In Hong Kong, in Dubai, and recently we have also done that in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Oman. So we have declared ourselves to the Central Bank and what our business activities are. Finterra is a pure R&D and development, software development company. We do not trade in in cryptocurrencies. We do not sell cryptocurrencies, right? Ultimately, when our project do go live and we get listed on exchange, yes, our token called the Fin token, F-I-N, Fin token will get listed. At that point, the trade will start. But the trade is between the end users and the exchanges, not with Finterra. Finterra is the software or the platform provider.
Thank you so much, Hamid.
Thank you so much.
It's a real pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Speaking to you.
Thank you.